sweet mother of all that is holy, this. I have no words for this, at least not ones I can use here anyway. Now, I believe in a very simple rule, that stupidity must be punished in some form, whether this be exposure, mockery, ridicule, you take your pick. Now, Dev. I swear Dev either has some pathological hatred of sense, an extreme form of ideological possession that rots your brain, or he has a fetish for being berated, because he seems to operate on any publicity is good publicity, even if you happen to be the stupidest person in all of Canada. And considering the piece of plastic wank that is about as in control of the state as Biden is of a teleprompter, my good God, that really is saying something. But this is all with regards to Texas, because the federal government is actively trying to set the border on fire, and the state of Texas has pretty much gone to war with the federal government. There is a reason why if you ask any American where they're from, they will say America, but if you ask a Texan where they're from, they'll say Texas. And if there's any Texans in the comment section, you guys can confirm this. There's no people in America that hates the federal government quite like a Texan. There's a reason why they're called the Lone Star State. If there is one state in America you would put your money on that is most likely to secede from the Union, yeah, that'll be Texas. And if you see the current hellscape at the border, yeah, their hatred is very much justified. And so Clown's World Man, satirically I'm sure, writes the following. I need Dev to explain the government process here that we're all super ignorant of, so I can understand why the federal government is desperately fighting the state for access to this area just to allow illegals to flood the country further. I'm sure there's no malice here. Now, Dev, naturally being so enlightened with his head so far up his own ass, writes this lunacy. Not malice, but stupidity, which definitely describes your Twitter takes. They think they're being humanitarians, letting illegals in, because they don't see the negative consequences of their actions. They're not sitting around thinking, I'm going to make those guys' lives shittier. If they don't know or think that by default, then they're too stupid to involve themselves with the affairs of the state, and I believe my audience would concur with this assessment. Naturally, the replies are not exactly savory to say the least, because this kind of stupidity carries with it enough naivety to launch Canada to the frickin' moon. They think they're being humanitarian. Oh yes, it's so great being humanitarian, as they shut the schools down to fill it with illegals, all in the taxpayers' dime. Oh, what saints they are. Someone linked a video of a congresswoman literally saying they want more people for redistricting purposes. But no, politicians definitely only do things to be humanitarian. I mean, by that logic, let's just give the state all the power and go full nanny mode, because everyone in it is the goodest people to ever live, and they will shower us all with hugs and kisses and many, many bunnies. You know, of the three that I mentioned, my money is on a fetish for being berated, some form of masochism, I'm sure. Why do you think they're illegal in the first place, Dev, and not coming in legally? Why do you think the state is facilitating them on the taxpayer's dime just for humanitarian purposes, is it? I don't know many people who are humanitarian with other people's money as a means to be seen as virtuous, especially within the state apparatus. Why, I would deem that rather immoral. No mention of cheap labor even, no, just to be seen as humanitarian. Why? Get freaking real, man. Hey Dev, how did the Canadian government behave during the coup, shutting down the bank accounts of those who took a stand against the state during the trucker protests? Which, by the way, how is that video coming along? Why does anyone listen to a lunatic who just gets off driving traffic by being insane? And if you think that's bad, no, he went for the jugular with this one. 9 times out of 10, when somebody says the ruling class have destroyed everything, civilization is crumbling and everything sucks, what's actually happening is that they're fucking failures who have destroyed their own lives and are looking for others to blame. 9 out of 10, so what about the one other person? Because as far as I'm aware, objective truth doesn't need majority consensus. If a single mother, a drug addict, or a multi-millionaire says inflation is through the roof, their current standing in life has bugger all to do with the fact inflation is still high as balls as a result of the state inflating the fucking money supply. The state is not defending its borders, which to many is the sole function of the state. No, it's too busy sending money to Ukraine and turning that whole debacle into a money laundering operation. Not to mention shutting down energy projects, hampering production in America, definitely not blowing up pipelines that make energy insanely expensive for all of Europe, and that's not counting having Europe flooded with the third world, which is definitely not costing the taxpayers an arm and a leg, or making property or rent more expensive, because you know having to house more people in a finite amount of space has no impact at all. So the fact that everything is more expensive, the cost of living is sky high, purchasing power is reduced from one administration to the next, definitely has nothing to do with the state's actions whatsoever. Or him saying this to someone who tells him there must be a systemic angle to this. I keep hearing this. Leftoids blaming the bourgeoisie and the rightoids blaming the government bureaucrats. Does it ever occur to you to drop the left and right angle because it is utterly useless, much like everything else the left says? Hating the state for its objectively malicious actions does not pertain to a political affiliation, it just is. But it just doesn't play out in the data. Poverty rate is the same as before, same with home ownership, same with wages. I'm not sure how poverty rate can be the same with a massive amount of state spending and flooding of illegals, the inflation which reduces purchasing power, as if that's going to have no impact on your wages at all. And if all is hunky-dory, why is the media trying to gaslight the public on the economy harder than Dev is over here? Meanwhile, about 3/4 of the population disapprove of the state of the economy. Far as the housing market is concerned, this is from Bankrate.com, Homeowner Data and Statistics 2023. This is the latest that I could get. Amid dogged inflation as Americans grapple with the steep cost of, well, everything, homeownership has become an elusive goal to achieve. It peaked in 2005, almost 19 frickin' years ago, Dev, when well over 2/3 of American housing units were owner-occupied, as US Census Bureau lingo puts it. This homeownership rate then began to sink, down to 63.1% in 2020, its lowest levels in 5 decades. It has budged only slightly since then. It's not hard to see why. Between the first quarter of 2021 and the first quarter of 2022, housing prices increased 18.7% according to the Federal Housing Finance Agency Price Index. While the appreciation pace has slowed somewhat, prices climbed 4.3% between the first quarter of 2023 and the second quarter of 2023. It's still headed upward. In fact, at $410,200 as of June 2023, the median existing home sales price is the second highest price ever recorded since January of 1999, when the National Association of Realtors began tracking the data. The man is just a serial liar. I would love to ask Deb, speaking as a South African, why do you think my country, under Rule W, went from safe, prosperous, competent, and sane to crime-ridden, poverty-stricken, incompetent, and insane amounts of corruption under Rule B, to the point where we don't even have a functioning fucking power grid anymore? Do you think that's malice or stupidity? Actually, in South Africa's case, that's probably both. Either way, it justifies why I think the way I do and why I detest democracy. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.